G'day! In today's episode, I've got an Asus TUF FX505D2/BQ023T, and this particular one I purchased from a Ewaste recycler. Now, looking inside, I ended up buying some RAM, a couple of sticks of RAM, 128GB SSD, and this laptop, which didn't look too far into the specs, but I did find that we had a 16GB of DDR4, 2666, so some slower stuff. Then also, within the hall, we have a 512GB Intel 660p SSD, and that one is a NVMe SSD. So even just that, I've got my worth from this machine. Now the battery has been removed, and I do have another 8GB stick of RAM here of 2400. So not exactly great stuff, but it's 8GB. So putting the RAM aside, looking at it, they did remove the battery from the factory. I'm not sure if this corrosion here, actually I say that, looks like thermal paste almost. Now it's not looking great. I do open it up. Do see signs of water on here. So I'm curious to see if this will actually power up at all, and what was the fault that led it to be going to the recycler. So looking here, see white powdery look. Also I did spot around here. I'm not sure if that's just corrosion from it getting damp or what, but along here, looking a bit dodgy. So I'm gonna plug in some power and see what this may or may not do. The battery is missing, but they take the batteries out when they get the machine. But they failed to take the RAM out or anything else. So let's get some power and see what happens. Now sadly, I've misplaced my charging cable for one of these. Being it didn't come with one, I thought I had a newer Asus charging cable on hand. Turns out I don't. And without that, I'm not able to power this on. And then I was going to salvage the screen just before, which I've cleaned it up to take it out. And turns out it's a 60Hz panel. So I'm going to assume we're a Ryzen 7 3700, I believe it is, a 3700U, with a GTX 1650 4GB model. Or at least that's what it's looking like to me anyway. So what I want to do is just give it a clean up before I go too far with it. Just using some glass cleaner. Well, I do find that the other stuff that I've got, which is surface cleaner, tends to foam up a bit, where this just tends to go over it, clear it, and clean it up, and just keeps, and then it's gone. Where the other cleaner, it's a bit too harsh, I think, or at least too harsh for this particular thing, where it's just dirt and grime on a screen or on a plastic, as opposed to food stains and oil and whatnot that way. I was hoping this may have been a 120Hz panel or better, mainly just because that's what I'm currently needing one of at the moment. Now, no concern it's going to push a button, because right now there is no battery. But there's fairly minimal concern. One thing I have noted with this particular model is there's a lack of wear marks on the screen, where I see plenty of cheap laptops where these keys along here or the trackpad ends up wearing an indent on the screen. Even MacBooks are guilty of that. But on this Asus TUF, it's kind of dodged that problem, to my surprise. I'm thinking there may be an alternative way to power it, to get some power to it, but at this point, not looking that likely. Other than just getting one of the charging cables for it. Universal chargers I've got are no good. I don't have anything that plugs into it. So the good old Schrodinger's box, Schrodinger's cat. You can't see inside the box. Is it alive or dead? You can't tell. It's both, it's neither, all at the same time. It's now feeling a little bit cleaner, at least. You'd look at it now and you wouldn't think it's come from the Ewaste recycler. Much better. But if I fold this over, we're still looking not too crash hot on the top here. This is fairly scratched up here. Granted, I did pull it out of a pile of laptops, but whatever. The screen does have a lot of fluff on it at the moment, but the panel itself does seem to be fairly clean. And behind it, there didn't look to be really any signs of liquid damage. So fingers crossed this is a nice reusable 15.6 inch panel. And for the very little that I paid for it, even if the board is dead, I've got 16 gig of RAM, a display, an SSD out of it for around $40. So definitely still not really losing on this one. Anyway, we'll wait to charger. So it's been a few days now. I've got my 180 watt laptop charger. Now it's plugged in. This one here is 180 watts. Granted 120 or 140 is meant to be just fine for this, but that's what they had and it was like a few dollars more, so why not? While we're also here, I did remove the display that was on here. I had a repair job come in that required a screen and this was the only one they had that was compatible. So that screen was perfectly fine. So with the screen perfectly fine, that gives me some hope that the rest of this might be okay. How am I going to find out it's going to be able to power now? Well, simply by looking at the fan spin, and also I'll connect it up externally via HDMI if I have some luck there. So with power plugged in, what I also want to grab is a USB amp reader, which is this. Got one of these. This will give me USB current voltage and ampage. Basically, if it's plugged in, I turn it on, and it said there's 5 volts coming out, then I know it's awake. Because right now we do not have power coming out of the USB port with it plugged in. Let's find the power button on here. That's hitting the power button. Nothing whatsoever. So there very well may be that the mainboard on this has failed. If that's the case, I've certainly got my value worth of parts. Power button, nothing, no life. Where are we? Keyboard is plugged in fine down here. Unplug that, plug it back in. Let's plug back in there. Still no 5 volt. Is it lifting up when I'm pushing it? No, nothing going on there. There's a phone going off though. If I go here, so there's a certain shorting you have to do of the pins to maybe jump start it. Seen that with the HPs. I didn't like that. Nah, bugger. I lucked out on getting a machine that I can get up and going, but so far I've had an NVMe drive, extra RAM, a screen that I've already sold for triple the amount that I paid for this machine. So overall the spares that I've got out of this have quite outweighed the actual overall use of this. Granted, it was missing a battery, it was missing a charger. I've now got one of these for stock at the shop in case it's ever needed again. So that's not the purchase price of the charging of the power adapter. I'm not really factoring into it. I'm just going by the price that I paid for this machine. Even still, I've got an extra power cord here if I need one. I can take that out, throw it in my collection. The keyboard I probably won't bother keeping. I very well may just throw it in the collection, just on the odd chance that one of these laptops do come and it comes with a damaged charger. overall, it's still been highly worthwhile for me to purchase this at a very cheap price, especially the overall value of it for the components and the luck of the draw was definitely going to go in my favor anyway. Even with the machine not actually going, to me that's still perfectly fine. Just means I know that I can cease my investing time on this, and from here I'll probably eventually go back to scrap. But for now I'll get my parts out of it and we'll go from there. Anyway, as always, I'll catch you later, and as always, it's usually worth checking out your local e-waste recycler for cheap bargains like this. The $40 that I paid for is definitely going to be more than they're going to get from the materials, and it saves a machine going directly into landfill. That will do. Bye.